Well, welcome back to the heart of the Bear Factory. This is Pawsitive Impact, the show that talks about making teddy bears with a purpose. My name is Rob Johnson, and joining me as always is Jimmy Banish, Chief Operating Officer of the Bear Factory. What's happening, Jimmy?
Not too much or a lot, or at least the topic of this podcast episode.
I feel like we're in a recurring theme where we're talking about the same thing, and it's because it keeps changing. The nature of where we're sitting right now with tariffs is volatile. It's up and down and all around, and no one has a crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
So when people are calling you, what are you telling them?
As most of our customers know, we've been pretty quiet. Like, we made an initial press release announcement back in February when the 20% tariffs were announced, and then those held for a little while. But as of today, Friday the 11th of April, last Thursday was bumped up to 54%. I don't fully even remember this week. It seems like a haze, but at some point on like Monday or Tuesday, it went up to 104%, then 124%, and I think we're sitting healthily at 145% tariff right now for all goods coming out of China at the moment.
Yeah, it feels like two kids are playing Monopoly, and they're the highest bidder for Boardwalk and Park Place.
Yeah.
They're just going back and forth as aggressive as possible. They're like, no, we're going to 200%. It's like at a certain point, someone's going to blink.
Like, I think both sides know that it's like going to give. It's just a matter of what I'm concerned as like a small business owner is what's the carnage, and us as a company that's on the front lines of this, like from my viewpoint, the carnage is going to be like my customer base and the customers that can't, afford or don't know what to do or they get caught not paying attention. Like, I've had a couple of customers who I've talked to on the phone this week, and at the end of the conversation, I'm like, yeah, do you have any questions about anything that's going on? And they're like, what's going on? And I go, the tariffs. And they're like, what's going on with the tariffs? And I go, it's like up to 100% right now. And they're like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? And I go, and it's just like small business owners are so focused on just like keeping their business up, alive, and running. They're almost like the ignorance is bliss in that mindset is probably almost better just because of how volatile it is. We just keep telling people it's very fluid right now, and I think it's really easy to get caught up and go home and just flip on the news and start getting sucked into the social media madness that is going on right now, where I think for us at least, we obviously have had like our ups and downs. Like, Jerry decided to go, he's obviously not here today, like he decided he went on spring break in Mexico, and I feel terrible for him because he's like a prisoner in his mind on the beach right now. Like we've been on he'll call me, like we talk 3-4 times a day, or we're texting, and it's like just ups and downs because he's just hearing this, hearing that. Like, he talked to the hotel owner. They have, the hotel that they're at, they have 6 different resorts in Mexico, and they're like, we work really closely with Delta, and Delta's had a 38% cancellation this week for like the rest of the spring break season. Like, I think people are just freaking out, and they just don't know what to do. And when you start to subscribe to like that madness of mainstream media and social media, it's like, where are you left hanging?
Yeah. The interesting thing that I've seen is, and you have as well, been in the front row of a lot of these things with the pandemic, coming into the recession after that, and then where we're sitting now a couple of years later. And what I've found is everyone is so reactionary in that they think tomorrow is the make or break day. Mm-hmm. They're going to pull all their money out of the 401k tomorrow. Their business is either going to live or die tomorrow. And things just don't work that way. Even in 2008, when the markets took a 50% hit, if you would have held your position in 4 years, you would have been back up higher than where you were before. And no one was going to use all of their retirement money in the next 4 years. It's just not how it works.
No, like I had a buddy call me, and he does a lot of like heavy auto part machinery exporting, and we were talking about it, and he's like, oh, I've lost like $50,000 in my 401. And I'm like, dude, shut up. Like, you're not retiring anytime soon. Like, you weren't touching that anyway. So like you don't need to touch that for like another 30 years. So just like, why are you freaking out about it?
And for what it's worth, you only lose it when you actualize it.
Yeah. So I understand it's fight or flight. I understand the uncertainty. I also understand that there's a lot of people personally and companies professionally that probably still have some sort of PTSD from COVID.
Yeah.
And this is like scary, uncertain times. And I'm telling people I'm cautiously optimistic about where this is going to go. And all we can really do is focus on, what do we need to do as a business to continue moving forward. And I think part of that is, a main point of this podcast is this episode is to try to explain to our customer base like where we're at and like what is our mentality as far as like thinking through all of this. And the two main questions I get is what are price increases? We know that you've talked about them coming. What are they going to be? And the other one is like, why don't you just move your supply chain? So I'll dive into the first the second one being supply chain. Like excellent question. Why?
Just make it in America, Jimmy.
Yeah, everyone's always just like make your plushies in America, and
It's so simple.
yeah, I mean, I deal with this all the time with people calling for custom plush programs, and I think I've talked about this on other podcasts where it's like I sit down, I usually take a good hour with those initial inquiries. They're probably not, I'm not probably getting any business out of it, maybe a very small percentage of the time, but I try to explain to people that nobody manufactures here, plush here in the United States. Like it's not going to happen. I mean, I looked at we looked at building a 75,000 square foot facility here in Livingston County last year. Interest rates were at like 7% at the time. But for that project, it was going to be like a $16 million project just for walls and a roof. And with a fixed rate over the next 20 years, like we couldn't even pay it off early if we had some great years, kind of thing. So if you're talking just the real estate to be able to set up an operation, then you have the capital investment of equipment, and the main thing, the next part, I won't even talk about like labor. Like we pride ourselves on being a living wage certified employer. Like we have certain expectations that we need to meet for like benefits and compensation and hours worked that we like to give our employees. Like given those really high standards to try to just allow people to have a living wage here in our small area of Michigan, like it's just not going to happen. So like what do? And then the other component is materials. Like the reality is yes, you can get materials from India, and they have some in Vietnam and Turkey, but a lot of the materials that we use, specifically the recycled fabrics, the GRS 100 certified recycled fabrics, like China's the hub for a lot of these textiles and materials. So even if we move operations to Mexico or somewhere else like in Asia, we're still probably, at least for us as a business with the recycled materials, going to be pretty reliant on China as a supplier to start. Obviously, we can work with new factories and try to support infrastructure to allow them to eventually be able to produce those fabrics. But like that takes time. It took us 2.5 years just to work on our initial Plush for the Planet fabrics and then it took another about 8 months to like fine tune, put it into production, work on quality. And the other thing is quality control too. So you'll see other like larger mainstream companies like 50%, maybe 50% of their plush is made in Vietnam and the other 50% is still made in China. So if anybody's saying that they're making plush here in the United States, I would be hard to challenge them because it's just not going to happen. And we're still tied into China's supply chain.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like we're still, like the other thing too is like we have partners that we've worked with for 20 years over there. Like we still want to support them. Like we're a big part of this episode and just trying to give information to our customers. Like we're trying to support our customers on this end of this side of the business, and then on the back side, we have all of our factories we work with, all of our managers and quality control team, and they have containers like that are just sitting there that, um, you know, it's like if it's a 200% tariff, do you just eat the deposit on things and walk away? And like that doesn't do anything for them. And like
Right.
these are people that we know and have relationships with, and like it doesn't feel right to just abandon them either,
Right.
and so it's this teeter-totter balance of like where do you go?
Yeah. And if you do pull out, you're going to see a dramatic increase in what one's plush costs.
Yeah.
In addition to all the logistics of moving everything, when that's not what makes the most sense for this particular industry.
Yeah, there's just a lot of I feel bad for shoe companies right now. I was watching a tariff webinar yesterday, which I'm so like conscious of like what we talk about on this episode because it's just so fluid and changing constantly.
Yeah.
Like what we talk about now could be totally irrelevant in the next 3 hours by the time we're done.
Yes.
But I was on a webinar yesterday and like half the information was already outdated. But something that stuck with me was this tariff stacking that's now taking place because you have existing tariffs that were in place before. Like we have our recording modules that had a 15% tariff placed on them back in 2019. Well, those recording modules aren't 145%, they're 160% now because they had that additional 15% tariff on top of them. Like shoes, they were talking through in this webinar, like shoes have like 190% tariff right now. And they're like, if you need new slippers, like go pick them up from Bed Bath & Beyond right now because like those prices are skyrocketing. And I texted a friend of mine who owns a running store and I go, hey, like, are you doing all right? And he's like, yeah, everything's fine. And I go, well, have you seen this? And I sent him a screenshot, and he goes, oh no, like we're just kind of still just doing business as usual. And he's like, but now that you mention it, my suppliers have been eerily quiet. And I go, yeah, they're freaking out. Like they're just trying to figure out what to do right now, And I think that's the other thing too that probably is isolating us and our customers from friends and family too, is because we're on the front lines of this. And I've had people say, like, what are you guys freaking out about? Like, I haven't seen any price increases or anything. And it's like, guys, go look at all the tags on the clothing that you wear. Like, I'm wearing a Viore top. This is made in China. Like this, this is probably a $60 top. At the tariffs it is right now, like this thing's going up to $120 retail. So there's ripples.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-mm.
And that's where what's really interesting to me is you can really see the inexperience or the ignorance that people have around this topic because it's like, well, it's fine right now. And yeah, right now it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to be if this same trend continues, for the next, 30 to 60 days, because then when people are running out of inventory, when they have the turnover, their new inventory is going to be at that new tariffed rate. And that's when you're going to see the increase.
Yep, it's going to happen faster than we think. The Christmas season is being determined right now over the next 45 days.
It's nuts.
And that's like where people will definitely, their heads will pop off is, these are things that you have to think about now.
Yeah.
And my cautiously optimistic side says that at the very least, I think the administration was smart enough, or I would hope that they were smart enough to look at trends because I went back and looked at, okay, when is the peak time of exports from China to the United States? So I went back and looked at the last 15 years. It peaks at right around August, which makes sense. Like everyone's getting in their Christmas stuff that's coming in for to like start to supply the retail space. And then it starts to quickly drop off and bottoms out right in March. So if you think about it, these were announced in February. There were moves that were started to make, like here coming into April, like right when things are really bottomed out. But the trend is back up. But like the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
As of this week at 100%, like we grounded all of our pickups. And we're hearing, that pretty much everybody else is grounding pickups out of China. Like we have containers that are just waiting. And unfortunately, like we had one container that slipped through us telling our logistics freight forwarder to ground everything. I have a ticking time bomb of a container now that's getting loaded today. It's going to be here in 30, 45 days. What's the tariff going to be? It's like roulette that I don't want to play, because the average, value of those containers is $100,000. If it's 100% tariff, I got paid $100,000 on that. If it's 150% tariff, $150,000 on $100,000 worth of product, we're like, do we just abandon it?
Yeah.
So
what happens? So let's say it's a 45-day lead time and it enters the harbor on May 1st, right? And tariffs are announced on April 30th that they're rolling back to 20%. At what point does that container adhere to that new tariff?
Great question. They are rolling out like these 100% were effective as of I think like Monday or Tuesday, where for any shipments from China from Monday or Tuesday of this week was going to get hit with that 100%. Last week it was the 54%. So basically anything that ships now, it's on this time bomb, and the only way that it's gonna come claw back is if they just start to reduce the tariffs. So like this week we received some containers over in Long Beach. Those were shipped within the timeline of the 20% tariff. So it's not like because they made an announcement that it's 100% tariff this week that all of a sudden all the containers hitting the border at 100%. There's at least like cutoff times, and that's what really saved us back in February was I think it was February 2nd or 3rd. They came out and said there's 20% tariff that's taking place, and that starts with anything that ships like as of February 7th or something. And so basically like all of our containers that shipped before Chinese New Year were in the clear. And that's what just was very uncertain those first couple of days.
Yeah.
Was like, is everything on the water coming tariff now? And thankfully it wasn't, because that's basically the inventory we're living off of right now, which is a great segue into price increases, tariff increases. And originally at a 20%, the mindset is we just pass on, that 20% tariff amount, which was going to be right around like 80 cents a unit or something like that, wholesale increase. Now with it being at, I can't even talk 100%, and I'm only going to talk, let's just talk 50%, because I think it still can come down at some point. So for just round numbers, we circulate through about 50% of our inventory every 60 days. So for the sake of round numbers, let's say I have $8 million worth of product back there. That means that 4 million of that I'm circulating through, and that's like the efficiency of our warehouse and the amount of containers in our supply chain and the rate at which we receive new product. So that $4 million at 50% means that we now need to come up with $2 million in tariff money over the next 60 days to help fund that. That kind of money is money that we use for our production.
Yep.
So if we just only pass on the tariff amount and we're essentially funding, because we have to pay that tariff within 7 days, within 10 days right now of it hitting the border and it being released. That means that now that $2 million is getting locked up in the back and sitting on the floor, and it's going to kill our production. And if we don't do a full, maintain our margins and do a full increase to be able to both now supply the fund the tariff and keep production going, we're going to run into serious inventory issues. We'd have to reduce, basically our buying power just decreased by half. We're going to have to either slash the product line offering in half overnight, or we're going to start to run into issues where we're only able to fund half the amount of inventory levels that we're used to. And now you're going to start to get prolonged out of stocks for certain SKU sets.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sounds like right now everything's up in the air. There are no definitives around any of this, but it's good that people know worst case scenario, best case scenario, and then what the middle looks like.
Yeah, we're still, like I said, it's so fluid. We're still, just kind of paying attention. There's definitely going to be changes made coming May. And, we're still just kind of like evaluating that. Like the plan is to finally make some hard decisions come the week of the 21st as of right now, given the information that we have. And I think it would be premature to start saying things now because I've already written up 2 press releases over the last week. And every time that I went to send those out, some news comes up and it's like, well, that's irrelevant, or should I say delete nowadays.
Yeah.
Like it becomes irrelevant. But
Yeah.
what does remain consistent and the same is that the core questions we asked ourselves is, what does this mean for us as a company and family? What does this mean for our employees? And what does this mean for our customer base? And what I'm going to ask our customer base specifically is, I feel like we've always done a really good job of supporting you over the last 25 years when times got tough. If a shipment goes missing and we need to, take it on our dime to ship out new product. Like, I feel like we've always done the right thing by our customers. So what I'm asking our customers now is to stand by us. And like, we didn't ask to get on this roller coaster, but we found ourselves all on this wild ride, and every day all I hear is click, 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 and the top of the roller coaster keeps getting higher and higher and higher. And it's just like, when are we going to hit this peak and finally be able to like take that downturn? And we're going to do what we need to do as a company to stay in business. And in order for us to do that, we need to make sure that our customers stay in business and that our supply chain stays in business. So we're going to make decisions that supports everybody, that we work with within our community, within our supply chain. Everybody that we work with, we need to make those decisions based off of it. And I get some of my employees all the time. They're like, "Man, I don't envy you." I'm like, "Yeah, I know it sucks. Like, we've had sleepless nights, and I really do my best to, not get caught up in all of it." And that's why instead of watching the media, like, I go home and Araya paint my fingernails, and it's like a reminder to just relax, breathe, take a step. We have our health, like, we have our families. Our businesses is our livelihood, and it's scary, but we've been through much worse times, and as long as we have like those closest to us and we have our health, we have everything, and we'll find a way to get through it.
No, I love that. And on that topic, I want to talk about this guy here. I'll hand
Yeah.
this old cow to you.
Yeah. So this is like our Plush with a purpose call out for today was, I found this when we were cleaning out Jerry's house a couple years ago. Like, he moved and we were just going through a bunch of old drawers, and I'm like, what's this guy? And it's like, this is one of our original plushies, like one of our original lines that just sat on a bed in like one of the bedrooms forever, and I didn't even know like where this came from. So I wanted to bring him out and metaphorically say, like, this is how I feel right now. Like, I feel like these tariffs are just milking us dry. But more importantly, this guy was introduced 24 years. It'll be our 25-year anniversaries next year. We've been through really tough times. We've been through really great times. We have customers who have been through all of it with us. We have customers that have been with us for 25 years. We have customers that have been with us, 25 months. We're going to do what we need to do to stick around and be here. It may be uncomfortable given the circumstances. Change is not always comfortable, and if you didn't ask for change, then it's even more stressful and uncomfortable. But change is just part of life, and this is just part of like the human experience. So I think he's just bringing this cow out to show, like, he's been around 25 years. We're gonna find a way to continue to be around another 25 years. Araya is clearly not going to be a nail technician by the looks of it with this mani-pedi that she gave me. So I need to make sure that the Bear Factory is still around as a potential viable option for her.
I love it. No, that's great. And as always, if people that are watching this, they have questions, they can reach out, and you guys will talk through where the current market's at and what you're doing.
Yeah, we're making ourselves as available as possible by phone, just to be able to like talk through this and provide as much relevant content that is going to be of benefit, rather than it being, oh my God, there's 100% tariff, the ship's going down, like blah 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 blah. Like no, like we're keeping a level head
Yeah.
and taking it day by day, step by step, and like we'll get through this. We are. I'm consciously optimistic about like the next day, the next week, but I'm extremely confident in us being here in a year and sitting back and talking through this and looking back and being like, wow, that was painful, but this is what we learned and this is where we grew from it.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing too. Is you said something that a lot of people don't think about is going through those really hard times is a hell of an education for the next time that something happens, and you'll be more agile. You'll understand it better, and it's every time you do it, it gets easier and easier.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't feel like it in the moment, but it will on the next go around.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there are going to be highs and lows. No business ever just continually trends upward. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Very good. All right, so that's going to wrap up this episode of Pawsitive Impact. You can learn more about the Bear Factory at the website and the show notes. Apart from that, we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.